Hey guys, today we're going to make a THALL track like Viljata, Mirror, and Humanity's Last Breath, and it's going to sound like this. Alright, so a lot of you guys have been asking for a THALL video, and THALL is unlike every other metal subgenre in the way that it pushes the boundaries and breaks the rules. You're gonna see as we go, this is kind of gonna start as a normal modern metal track, and then as we turn it more and more into THALL, we're gonna have to break more and more mixing rules to get that sound. So to get started, I've already programmed in a drum beat here using Modern and Massive 2, and that sounds like this. So as you can hear, I'm leaving a lot of space. Space is so important in this genre, and I'm just keeping everything pretty rhythmically disjointed, not too on the grid. A lot of offbeat hits. And for the processing on the drums, we almost want like a standard modern metal drum sound, but the kick, first off, wants a lot less of that clicky top end that we usually get in modern metal. This is all about like the boomy, blown out bottom end. So I have Decapitator absolutely destroying this kick. And I also have Brainworks Clipper just clipping the crap out of it. Doesn't sound the prettiest on its own. It sounds like we've kind of taken it too far, but in the mix, that's what we're going to need for this to punch in the way that THALL does. And the snare and cymbals just have a bit more reverb than you would usually want in modern metal. Because the atmosphere is such an important part of the THALL sound. And to get these drums sounding even bigger, I'm going to take a little bit of a Mirror approach and just copy our MIDI onto this dubstep kit, the UJAM dubstep kit. If you watch the channel, you know I love this thing. And let's just delete all of the cymbals and everything. We don't want any of that. I just want to like reinforce the kick and snare here. This is going to sound crazy. That's just adding that electronic, super bassy punch to our drums. All right, let's get some guitars on this. And before we get heavy, we're gonna need an intro with, of course, some ambient clean guitars. So I have just Archetype Nolly here, the clean amp, but I'm using a pitch shifter to get an octave higher and blend that in just slightly. So we have that sparkly top end on top of the main note. And I'm just using Shimmer, the reverb in Cubase to get that really spacious vibe that we want. So let's just lay down something dissonant and atmospheric. All right, and let's just keep this looping the whole time. Like, even when this gets super heavy, we're gonna want this in the background, even if we don't really hear it. We want that atmosphere there the whole time. All right, now we're ready for a heavy guitar riff. So we're gonna want some super low notes, some chugs, some bends, some high tremolo stuff, some general noise, some fast like death metal runs, some silence as well. Let's throw all of that together and then we'll talk processing and tones. All right, that's the left. Let's get it on the right. It's sounding heavy, and we're gonna just keep making this way heavier with a bunch of like production tricks. I'm just gonna time stretch this noise thing I did with the guitar scrape just to get it perfect. And then let's just quickly automate the pitch on these. So I'm using Archetype Gojira here. I've got everything turned off. I just have it as a pitch shifter, and I'm just gonna... Let's just run the pitch way up. This is, you know, a must for THALL. Let's do it on the other one. So I'm down 7 semitones. We're going to put it all the way up. 12 semitones higher than our original note. Man, this is going to be so heavy when we've added all these production tricks that I'm about to show you guys. But first, just to break down the tone, if you saw my Meshuggah video a couple of weeks ago where I was saying all modern metal rips off Meshuggah, I'm using the same tone. So I broke that tone down in that video, so I'm not going to repeat too much. But this is basically the same thing, pitched down and just taken further with a few tricks. The next thing is something I didn't do in the Meshuggah video, and it's on the left and right tone. I've got the SS11X preamp just switched on, so all of this stuff is off. I'm just using the preamp to boost the tone in front of the amp. This really brings the tone alive. And after that, on the left, I have a couple of audio assault pedals, the Meshuggah pedal and the precision drive with the attack all the way up. These are just tightening up the tone. Listen to this. If I turn off this preamp and these pedals, you'll hear just how much they're tightening up the tone. Let's turn them off and then bring them in. You can hear how much they're doing. Huge amount of boosting in front of the amp because that's what you need when you go this low. And then I'm using the Mixwave Spirit Box amp, and I'm also using the drive in this plugin as another boost to push it even further. We need to just boost as much as possible because, you know, the DI for this is just going to sound like a fart, basically. So the goal is to introduce as much harmonic enrichment as possible, so it's not just low end and it's like got that lowness, but then there's so much saturation going on in the higher frequencies. Just pure chaos. And on the right, we have a similar tone. I'm using the pitch shifter again into SS11X. And then this time I have the 99 pedal all the way up going into the Audio Assault Meshuggah amp and a couple of Audio Assault cabs. And I also, in front of the amp, used the phase distortion by Kilohertz, only on like 9% mix, but it really adds something. If we turn this up, you'll hear how this adds almost like a metal zone kind of distortion. I imagine that's not what this plugin is supposed to be used for, but for me, that adds that bit of grind that I'm looking for. We just have to be careful with it because, you know, you start turning it up, it's going to just destroy the mix. But just a little bit is destroying the mix, just the amount that we want. It kind of needs to sound like organized chaos to really have the THALL vibe. And finally, for the guitars, I just have them running into a guitar bus with a gated reverb on it. So you can hear that little bit of spaciousness around the guitars there, because this genre isn't just about brutality, it's about atmosphere as well. So that's kind of the foundation of our mix laid down, but this isn't THALL until we make these guitars explode. I need every note I hit to just be like a sonic explosion. And the way that we do that is by layering a whole bunch of things, starting with the bass guitar. Where's my bass pick? There's my bass pick. Now, this is one part where the THALL approach is different to the usual metal approach. We're not going to just follow the guitars an octave down here. Firstly, we can't even go an octave down and still get a clear note because we're so low. So we're going to be in the same octave as the guitar, and we're not going to just follow every note. We're just going to accent the most impactful guitar notes that we really want to hear exploding out the mix. Bass is kind of like a reinforcement instrument rather than something that we want there the whole time. So all the high notes and bends and stuff, we're going to leave them as guitar. Let's just layer the impact notes with bass. Bro, I am obsessed with this tone. This has got to be one of the gnarliest bass tones I've ever dialed in. And we don't even have any low end. I'm filtering out all of the low end after the amp because we're going to use some synths to do that. So, you know, this could sound way bigger still. But all that we want for this really is that high mid-range grind, and we are getting it. So for this, I've been using more Audio Assault stuff. I kind of just tried this stuff on a whim and was really impressed. So I'm using this Clank preamp with no lows, all highs, and some boosted mid-range, lots of drive. And in front of that, I'm using this Zeta drive pedal, which honestly is like the...
Say the line, Bart!
It's the secret sauce.
Yay!
I'm so glad I found this thing. It just sounds like a THALL pedal to me. Like, wow, what is that even doing? How does something do that to my bass? This is not a sponsored video. I'm just loving the Audio Assault stuff right now. I'm using this Ampeg cab. This one's switched off, so just this one. And it sounds huge. All right, and from here on out is where we're going to start just breaking a bunch of mixing rules to get the impactful atmospheric THALL sound. And I'm going to start that with some cinematic percussion using UJAM drums, like a Hans Zimmer style drum plugin. That's huge. And that is a crazy amount of bass. If you've got headphones on, you can hear how much ridiculous bass that is. It's enough to destroy a mix. And honestly, that's the amount of bass we want for THALL. So this is another thing like the bass guitar that's just going to layer as like an impact layer with every time that the guitar... Let's do it every time the kick hits. So I've just copied the MIDI from the kick. Let's make sure it's on the right track. There we go. This is going to be stupid. Crazy, the amount of bass. And as much as I love that, we do want to save our mix here. So let's turn on sidechaining and just sidechain the kick and maybe the guitars to this so that we compress and duck this out the way. Yeah, something like that. So every time they're hitting, this is jumping out of the way and it's just kind of coming up in the atmospheric gaps in between. And another rule we're going to break with this, again, to get more of the kind of mirror vibe is, you know how clipping is that thing that we want to avoid at all costs all the time? Yeah, I'm going to clip the crap out of this. Let's use Brainworks Clipper. Let's just max it out and put it in parallel. Needs to have that like apocalyptical level of impact. Let's see how that sounds in the mix. It doesn't necessarily stick out the mix, but that isn't really what we want. We want to just feel that like bass explosion that this is adding. And another mirror trick that I want to do is layer in a really nasty synth bass sound. I've called this a ruler bass. I don't know if anyone else calls it a ruler bass, but you know like when you snap a ruler on the edge of a desk? Yeah, that's the kind of thing I had in mind with this. Every Vital preset you see me use in this video, by the way, is available in the pack that I'm going to put in the description for $2 for anyone interested. So this sound, to quickly break it down, it has a fast pitch envelope, kind of shooting the pitch down. There's a bunch of weird filtering to get those like harmonics. So it's not just a rumble. And I'm just playing super low notes so that it isn't, you know, a steady note. It's like falling apart a bit. So let's just copy what the bass guitar does and kind of layer this sound with that to get a super low impactful guitar sound. I'm almost certain I can hear this in most of the Mirage stuff, like a super low nasty synth sound that's kind of disguising itself as a guitar. Let's lay this down. Let's just tidy up the MIDI as well so that it's not like overlapping where it shouldn't be. That's nasty. All right, and let's do the exact same thing. The bass guitar, that ruler bass, and the sub bass that I have here are all gonna go together. And this sub bass sound that I have is like stupidly low, and it's gonna actually get to a point where it's not even a note anymore. Like, this is going an octave lower than everything else. You pretty much can't make out the note, but we want that. We want this to feel impossibly low. And I'm also breaking another mixing rule with this. I have reverb on the sub bass, which is like, you do not do that. But like I keep saying, I kind of want this mix to fall apart. I kind of want it to be a mess. I kind of want it to just feel like there's uncontrolled bass everywhere, like surrounding you, because that's the whole thing. It has to just surround you completely. I swear this sound would have its own gravitational field if there was a way we could measure it. Like, if you're not listening through headphones or good speakers, I feel bad for you. It's just ridiculous. I also just want to accent a couple of notes with this super saw sound to just get more intensity here and there. Let's lay it down. That's good. Yeah, we don't want to like do any overkill with that. It just needs to be in there to accent a few notes and just make it feel like all hell is breaking loose. And we still have a bunch more sound effects to add to this. So this, I've called it a noise burst, because that's what it is. Again, this is something we don't even necessarily need to hear. We need to feel it, like adding to that explosive impact when everything drops. I'm just going to put this every bar, like a drop. That one's almost like an industrial sound. Loads of white noise. I've got a pitch envelope again. Vroom. And we just have tons of effects, downsampling, just making it into a mess of a sound. Let's bring in a bunch of samples as well. If you watch the channel, you know I love the Free Evident sample pack. Let's use that one. Ooh, let's use that one. Got to use my explosion that I use in like every track. Always works. Let's bring these in. That is insane. All right, and let's take maybe this one. Let's do the same thing we've been doing with everything and have that kind of follow the guitars, impacting every significant note. Right there. Okay, and then let's dun dun dun, like. Again, we don't necessarily want to hear it. We just want to make this feel like the guitars are more than just guitars. Like every single guitar hit is a cinematic explosion. All right, two more things. Firstly, I want to get a bit more atmosphere still. So I have this pad sound. Let's lay this down, and I'm going to go pretty atonal with the notes, not even really thinking about what key we're in. We just want some atmosphere and some dissonance in the background. And let's sidechain compress this with the guitars as well so that it dips out the way every time. So this kind of fills in the gaps as well, so we're constantly surrounded by atmospheres. Okay, and finally, before this truly has the insane sound of THALL, we need to break one more big rule, which is to distort and clip the master. I'm going to start with the Brainworks clipper again, and we want to be more gentle with this. I'm not going to like max it out. We're going to put it in parallel, and let's just find the sweet spot where we can hear it kind of getting explosive, but it doesn't just make the mix sound like crap. It just wants to add a little more aggression. I mean, I kind of want that all the way up. But it really is destroying the mix, so let's keep it low. Yeah, that just ups the intensity without making it sound like the mix is just ruined. And let's pair that with a little decapitator. Let's put it on E. It's the most intense type of distortion, I feel like. And again, in parallel, so it's not crazy, it's just adding a bit of it. All right, guys, this is sounding ridiculous. We'll listen to the full thing in a minute. If you enjoyed this one, please hit the like and subscribe if you want more content like this. Let me know below if you guys want more THALL content on the channel or what else you want to see. And as always, if you want the ultimate guide from me on modern metal production, you can check out the Modern Metal Pro course in the description. All right, thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, I'll see you guys next time. Here's the track.